So now I'll welcome up Sophia Osborne, who is a cognitive science student here at McGill as well, and she'll be talking about the health impacts of gendered lifestyles, associations with disease outcomes.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to share with you my project on the health impacts of gendered lifestyle, looking today at the associations with diagnostic outcomes. While sex is defined by biological factors and is often operationalized as a male-female binary, gender, on the other hand, refers to socially constructed roles, behaviors, and identities as shaped by social norms. However, the two are often conflated in academic work, while the independent and interdependent influence of these variables go underexplored in the context of health research. Given the social shaping of gender, what we present here is a novel framework for quantifying gender, while recognizing that the specific results seen here are informed by the geographical and generational demographics of our cohort. This study was based on 56 lifestyle variables taken from approximately 200,000 subjects from the UK Biobank. The variables were chosen to capture as many possible facets of gendered lifestyle. The variables we chose included behaviors related to sleep, exercise, substance use, social satisfaction, and socioeconomic factors. A matrix of these variables was then fed into a machine learning classifier aiming to predict sex. From this model, we received an output, which was our continuous gender score, defined as the probable likelihood of each subject being classified as male. We were also able to see the gender directionality of each of our input features. While previous work looking at gender and health has imposed biases as to what behaviors are more masculine and which are more feminine, as we employ machine learning, we're able to look at the data to understand the gender directionality of each of our input features. As you look to the center diagram that shows the distribution of gender scores for each sex, you can see that most subjects have a score that aligns with their biological sex, while the long tails show that subjects of both sexes have scores that span the entire continuum. As our motivation was to look at the impacts of gender on health, what we did was analyze associations between gender score and diagnostic outcomes. What we found, looking at over hundreds of diagnoses, was that the most significant category was mental health. We found that diagnoses of OCD, anxiety, and depression were associated with more feminine gender scores as compared to the healthy controls, and diagnoses of behavioral and mental issues due to alcohol and tobacco use was associated with a more masculine gender score. Thank you so much for your attention.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have a question for Sophia?
So the gender score is derived from our classifier, and so we want it to be a spectrum, so based on your behavior, and it's a 1, because it's the predictive likelihood of being classified as male, so a 1 would be a more masculine gender score, and a 0 would be a more feminine gender score, and subjects can lie anywhere on the continuum, and that is informed just by your behavioral inputs, because we trained the classifier from the inputs to predict sex. Yeah, it's more about trying to look at the genderedness of their lifestyle as opposed to imposing an identity onto that person. So look, if all of our analyses, we looked at men and women separately, so the influence of a higher versus lower gender score in women and what the impacts of that would be. So a 0.5 gender score is not trying to impose an identity onto any individual subject, but to say that they have a index of their gender lifestyle falls somewhere in between masculine and feminine in nature. That's something that we're continuing to look at as we expand to other studies. But again, as we, through this, are not trying to impose an identity on them, just as any other person based on all of their input features of sleep, exercise, social behaviors. They could also be put into this score, but that is something we're continuing to look at.